Why did one of the WNBA's all-time greats suddenly walk back her praise for the league's hottest rookie? Caitlin Clark has been breaking records since high school, leading in assists, dazzling fans with her court vision, and elevating every teammate she plays with. Yet when Lauren Jackson, a player whose career defined an era, spoke about Clark, something unexpected happened. First, Jackson praised her passing, intelligence, and fearlessness on the court. Then, not long after, her tone shifted. The admiration disappeared, replaced by caution and subtle doubt. Fans noticed immediately, sparking questions about why the sudden change occurred. Was it pressure from the league, loyalty to inner circles, or just the tricky politics of WNBA narratives? One thing is clear: Clark's game hasn't changed. So why did the conversation around her suddenly flip? And what does this reveal about the hidden forces shaping women's basketball today? Caitlin Clark isn't just a name in the WNBA, she's a phenomenon. From leading the nation in assists in high school to dominating at the college level, her ability to see plays before they happen is unmatched. She doesn't just score, she elevates everyone around her. Teammates describe her as fearless, smart, and relentless, someone who carries the game on her shoulders without ever taking shortcuts. Fans instantly gravitated toward her, not only for the points she racks up, but for the way she makes her teammates better. Then came the comments from Lauren Jackson. For context, Jackson isn't just a former star, she's a legend. Multiple MVPs, defensive accolades, a career that defined an era. When she speaks, people listen. And when she praised Clark, it wasn't vague. She highlighted Clark's court vision, her passing ability, her intelligence, and the way she reads the floor. Jackson even admitted she would have loved to share the court with her, pointing to the rookie's ability to make everyone around her thrive. The timing of Jackson's praise only added to its impact. In a league where detailed recognition is rare, her words stood out. This wasn't about scoring or flashy plays. This was about basketball IQ and leadership. Clark's record-breaking assists in the WNBA weren't just numbers. They reflected smart decision-making and trust in her teammates. Jackson's admiration validated everything fans had already noticed. Caitlin Clark is a player who changes the game without ever dominating the spotlight herself. For a moment, it felt like the WNBA's narrative was shifting. The rookie was getting the recognition she deserved, and a legend had confirmed it. Fans shared clips, commentators highlighted the praise, and social media buzzed. But as quickly as it arrived, the moment felt fragile. The initial excitement wasn't just about Clark. It was about the league finally acknowledging the game beyond points scored. Jackson's words carried weight, and the WNBA world took notice. But that wasn't the full story. The reaction that followed would leave many questioning not Clark, but the forces controlling the conversation around her. Just when fans thought they were witnessing a rare moment of genuine praise, everything changed. Lauren Jackson's tone shifted drastically in a follow-up appearance. The same voice that once detailed Caitlin Clark's passing, vision, and leadership now sounded cautious, hesitant, almost scripted. Words that had celebrated a rookie's brilliance were replaced with subtle doubt. Jackson hinted that sharing the court with Clark might be tricky, implying she could prioritize her own shots over teammates. A claim that directly contradicted Clark's proven track record. The timing was what made this so striking. Jackson's initial praise had spread quietly at first, but as attention grew, the follow-up aired like a carefully measured response. Some fans began questioning. Had external pressure influenced the sudden reversal? Was there an unspoken message being sent to control the narrative? The shift didn't happen in isolation. Jackson was speaking on a platform closely tied to influential league figures, people who shape how stories about rising stars are told. Every word seemed calibrated, almost designed to steer attention away from Clark's impact. What made this even more puzzling was the contrast between Clark's performance and the narrative being spun. She had shattered records for assists at every level, high school, college, and now in the WNBA. Rookie records, franchise firsts, single-game highs. The numbers were impossible to ignore. Yet the commentary suggested she might not make the right basketball decisions. painting her as self-focused despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary. Fans noticed immediately. Social media erupted with disbelief and frustration. Many wondered if Jackson had even been watching Clark play, or if the politics of the league were outweighing reality. The discrepancy between on-court performance and off-court commentary exposed a deeper tension. Rising stars like Clark could still be boxed in by narratives controlled by legacy figures. This wasn't just about one comment or one podcast. It was a clear example of the friction between talent and influence, between statistics and storytelling, between the game as it happens and the game as it's framed for the public. And while Clark's skill remained undeniable, the conversation around her suddenly became about perception, control, and the politics of praise in the WNBA. But what led to such a sharp reversal? And why did it feel so deliberate? The answer lies behind the curtain of power structures that govern the league, a story far more complex than a single player's performance. While the commentary was shifting, Caitlin Clark's numbers told a completely different story, one fans could not ignore. From high school to the WNBA, her passing has always been elite. She led the nation in assists multiple seasons in high school, carried that dominance into college, and finished among the top assist leaders in NCAA history. Every step of her career reinforced the same narrative. Clark elevates everyone around her. In the WNBA, she didn't just continue that trend, she shattered expectations. As a rookie with the Indiana Fever, she set franchise records and even broke league marks that had stood for decades. Single-game highs, single-season totals, the stats spoke louder than any commentary. Clark's vision, court awareness, and decision-making were on full display every time she touched the ball. She wasn't a scorer who ignored her teammates. She was a playmaker, someone who made everyone better. Fans quickly noticed the disconnect. Social media lit up with clips of her record-breaking assists, stats, and plays that directly contradicted the suggestion she might ignore open teammates. The data was clear, documented, and impossible to dismiss. It wasn't just a rookie fluke. It was a pattern built over years of consistent performance. This contrast made Jackson's reversal feel even more deliberate. Praising Clark earlier and then walking it back after attention grew sent a subtle message. Certain narratives were more acceptable than others. For fans, it was frustrating to watch someone's proven ability be questioned despite a lifetime of evidence. Clark's accomplishments couldn't be erased, yet the conversation tried to minimize them. What made it even more striking was Clark's maturity under pressure. Despite the scrutiny, she remained unshaken on the court, continuing to break records and perform at an elite level. The difference between the narrative and reality highlighted a larger issue in the league. Talent and performance are often filtered through politics, influence, and legacy. Clark's career serves as a reminder that numbers don't lie. While commentary may shift, stats remain a permanent record. Her vision, passing, and leadership weren't temporary. They were part of her DNA as a player. And as fans watched, it became clear that no amount of narrative control could erase the reality of what she brings to the court. But even with all these records and proof, the bigger question remained. Why does the league still allow narratives to conflict so sharply with reality? And who really benefits when truth and storytelling diverge? What happened with Lauren Jackson's reversal wasn't just about one comment or one podcast. It was about the power dynamics behind the scenes. In the WNBA, certain players, programs, and legacy figures hold influence that goes beyond the court. Their opinions shape narratives, and sometimes praise comes with a price. Clark's early recognition from Jackson disrupted the expected order, and that disruption didn't go unnoticed. Reports suggest pressure may have played a role. After Jackson's initial, detailed admiration gained traction, someone likely reminded her which narratives were considered acceptable within the league's ecosystem. Soon after, she appeared again on a familiar platform, carefully realigned her commentary, and minimized Clark's impact. The contrast was striking. What started as genuine respect transformed into cautious, surface-level statements. Fans immediately noticed. This sequence isn't unique to Clark. Rising stars often face invisible barriers. Praise must align with established hierarchies, while older, established voices rarely face scrutiny. It's a subtle system of control, ensuring that attention flows toward the right players and away from those who might challenge the status quo. Social media conversations reflected frustration. People weren't asking for blind approval. They were asking for fairness. Clark's game never changed. Her passing, vision, and court awareness remained elite, but the environment around her created unnecessary tension. Platforms tied to influential figures, those with long-standing power in the league, can amplify praise or quietly diminish it, depending on the circumstances. Fans recognize this pattern. They see the timing, the sudden shifts, and the alignment with certain circles. The bigger picture is clear. The league's growth depends on allowing players to be themselves without bending narratives to fit tradition or hierarchy. Fans track stats, watch every game, and connect the dots. When praise is filtered, selective, or retracted, credibility erodes. For rising stars like Clark, navigating this landscape becomes just as challenging off the court as it is on it. This incident exposed the tension between talent and control, between what happens on the floor and what gets promoted behind closed doors. It raises a critical question for the WNBA. Can the league truly thrive while politics and legacy gatekeeping influence who gets celebrated and who does? And what happened next would make the stakes even clearer, as the public began to push back against this selective storytelling. The reaction online was immediate and intense. Fans had been watching Clark's career for years. They knew her game inside and out. Every assist, every perfectly timed pass, every moment she made her teammates better was public record. When Jackson's comments suddenly shifted, it didn't match what the stats and highlights had been showing. The inconsistency sparked confusion, frustration, and eventually outrage. Social media lit up with debates. Clips of Jackson's earlier praise resurfaced, now contrasting sharply with her later remarks. People questioned if she had actually been paying attention or if her words had been influenced by someone else. Rumors began circulating. Some fans speculated that league insiders or influential figures in the UCONN power circle may have pushed Jackson to walk back her praise. Others wondered if it was simply an attempt to preserve legacy narratives. Either way, the timing was suspicious. Forums and comment sections became battlegrounds. Supporters of Clark defended her relentlessly, pointing to her rookie WNBA records, NCAA accomplishments, and her history as a top assist leader. They highlighted how she consistently elevates those around her, evidence that the criticism was misaligned with reality. Meanwhile, some longtime fans expressed fatigue, saying this pattern had been repeated too many times with rising stars. Moments of recognition are tolerated only until they disrupt existing hierarchies. What caught many people off guard was the subtlety of the shift. Jackson didn't directly attack Clark, but the insinuations were clear. Without nomming her, she suggested that Clark might prioritize her own scoring over team success. That narrative clashed entirely with the data. Clark had set multiple assist records at every level, showing unselfish playmaking as a cornerstone of her style. Yet, the framing planted doubt in the minds of viewers who were less familiar with her resume. Despite the frustration, this backlash also demonstrated Clark's growing influence. Fans were not passive observers. They were informed, vocal, and willing to challenge selective storytelling. The online conversation made it clear that audiences are no longer satisfied with filtered narratives. They want consistency, transparency, and recognition of talent on its own merit, not just as it aligns with legacy players or league politics. And while the debate raged online, the implications went beyond social media. This wasn't just about a single podcast or a few controversial words. It revealed a deeper tension between old hierarchies and the new generation of WNBA stars. The question looming over the league became impossible to ignore. Would the next rising star face the same scrutiny, Or could someone finally break through without being pressured to conform? Numbers rarely lie, and Caitlin Clark's do not. From high school through college and into the WNBA, her track record tells a story of elite playmaking and unselfish basketball. In high school, she consistently led the nation in assists, showing a natural ability to read the floor and anticipate plays before they happened. Her teammates weren't just beneficiaries, they were elevated because of her vision. At the college level, Clark continued to dominate. She finished among the top assist leaders in NCAA history, proving that her court awareness wasn't a fluke. It was a defining feature of her game. Her freshman year in the Big Ten already placed her near the top of the conference in assists, signaling early that her playmaking would remain central to her success. Every pass was precise, every setup intentional. When she entered the WNBA with the Indiana Fever, the story only intensified. Clark shattered franchise records, recording the most assists ever by a rookie in a single game, and followed that up with a record-breaking season total. Those weren't just numbers on paper. They represented decision-making, trust in teammates, and a level of basketball IQ rarely seen at such a young age. Every assist reflected her ability to orchestrate the floor and make the entire team function at a higher level. That's why the sudden narrative suggesting she prioritizes her own shot over teamwork felt so off. The stats directly contradict it. Clark doesn't just score. She facilitates, elevates, and consistently looks for the best option. The notion that she might stall the offense or ignore open teammates is inconsistent with years of documented performance. Fans quickly pointed this out. Every record, highlight reel, and stat line was evidence that Clark's basketball instincts are elite, not selfish. And the contrast between her actual performance and the subtle criticisms from league veterans fueled questions about motivations, politics, and narrative control. Ultimately, the numbers tell the truth. Caitlin Clark is a playmaker first, a scorer second, and any story suggesting otherwise doesn't hold up under scrutiny. When facts and stats clash with talking points, fans notice, remember, and speak up. Clark's impact on the court isn't up for debate. What's being debated is how much power certain voices should have in shaping the perception of a rising star. And what happens next could redefine how the league balances legacy, influence, and recognition for the next generation of stars. In the WNBA, not every word spoken carries the same weight, especially when it comes from legends like Lauren Jackson. Her initial praise for Caitlin Clark was detailed, genuine, and rooted in basketball intelligence. Yet shortly after, her tone shifted, and the sudden reversal raised eyebrows. This wasn't random. It happened in a league where influence and relationships shape which narratives get amplified and which get quietly muted. Jackson has long-standing ties to the UCONN Inner Circle, a network of players, coaches, and media figures who wield significant behind-the-scenes power. This group often protects legacy figures and reinforces established hierarchies. When Jackson's original comments about Clark gained attention, it likely triggered a subtle but immediate reaction from that network. Reports and fan speculation suggest pressure may have come from multiple directions: league officials, peers, or media allies, all nudging her toward a more acceptable stance. The context matters. Jackson appeared on Sue Bird's podcast, a platform closely tied to that inner circle. The framing of questions wasn't neutral. It seemed designed to elicit responses that aligned with preferred narratives. Praise for Clark's court vision and team-first mindset disappeared, replaced by cautious, almost apologetic language. Jackson's expertise and authority made the contrast even more glaring. Her voice carries weight precisely because it once offered clarity, not political navigation. Fans quickly noticed the pattern. The praise came when it felt safe, quiet, and unthreatening. The walkback occurred as attention grew, coinciding with Clark's rising profile and growing fan support. The implication was clear. Certain players can rise without challenge, while others are subtly boxed in, regardless of merit. It's not about accuracy, it's about control. The timing of Jackson's comments suggested alignment with a larger system, one that prioritizes hierarchy over honesty. This isn't unique to Clark. The league has long struggled with balancing respect for past stars and creating space for new ones. The controversy highlighted how politics, loyalty, and influence can distort perceptions, even when facts are undeniable, like Clark's record-breaking assists. Narrative management often overshadows reality. In this environment, transparency becomes rare and skepticism grows. Fans track stats, remember statements, and see through carefully orchestrated messaging. When praise is softened or redirected, it doesn't just confuse, it undermines trust in the league and its leadership. The story here isn't just about one player or one interview. It's about who decides which voices matter, which achievements are celebrated, and which rising stars are permitted to shine freely. And the consequences of this control reach far beyond a single podcast. Once Lauren Jackson's comments shifted, the fan reaction was swift and unfiltered. Social media lit up with posts, threads, and highlight clips pointing out the stark contrast between her earlier praise and her later caution. Many viewers questioned whether Jackson had actually been watching Caitlin Clark play, pointing to Clark's documented assist records at every level: high school, college, and the WNBA. These weren't opinions, they were facts. Clark's passing numbers tell a story of a player who elevates everyone around her, yet the narrative being pushed suggested the opposite. Rumors began circulating, unverified but widely discussed, that outside pressure influenced Jackson's words. Some fans believe someone reminded her of acceptable talking points within the league ecosystem. Others speculated it was a strategic alignment, a subtle move to reinforce existing power structures while discouraging disruption from emerging stars. Whether true or not, the timing fit a pattern fans had noticed before: praise quietly given, then walked back when attention grew too loud. The backlash wasn't just about defending Clark. It was about exposing a recurring system, one where new voices struggled to be heard while established figures maintained control. Fans highlighted the inconsistencies and expressed frustration at a league that often values optics over facts. Threads compared Clark's record-breaking rookie season to the cautious commentary that followed, pointing out that her on-court excellence contradicted the off-court narrative being shaped. Online communities also scrutinized the context of Jackson's appearances. Podcasts, interviews, and social media moments tied to the UCONN inner circle came under the microscope. Fans questioned motives, dissected phrasing, and connected dots across multiple conversations. Many concluded that politics, relationships, and hierarchy often overshadowed honest basketball analysis. The intensity of the fan response shows how informed and engaged the WNBA audience has become. Viewers track stats, remember statements, and notice when messaging shifts. This wasn't a fleeting debate. It sparked discussions about fairness, influence, and accountability in women's basketball. The narrative around Clark became a symbol of larger systemic dynamics, representing both the promise of new talent and the obstacles imposed by entrenched hierarchies. Ultimately, the fallout highlighted one truth: fans aren't passive. They notice when praise is softened, when criticism feels selective, and when loyalty is valued over merit. Caitlin Clark's game speaks for itself, but the way her story is discussed off the court shows that the league still has battles to fight beyond basketball, battles over narrative, influence, and who gets to define success. And as the debate continues, one question lingers: will rising stars like Clark ever be allowed to exist without compromise?